Hello and welcome. My name is Rebecca Carey, and I am an ESOL consultant for the Maine Department of Education. Today, I would like to share a short presentation about understanding the basics for multilingual learner engagement in your educational setting. Please note that all of the links embedded within the presentation will be available to you once you have downloaded it. Let's lead in with our learning objectives for this presentation. Participants will be able to define key terminology related to multilingual learners. Participants will gain a deeper understanding of the essential components of an ESOL program, including the identification process for multilingual learners. And finally, participants will be more prepared to engage in language acquisition committee meetings and discussions about multilingual learners. To begin, I would like to share some key terminology. English for speakers of other languages, or ESOL, describes a type of class, teacher, or program which serves multilingual learners. In other words, multilingual learners participate in ESOL classes and programs. The term multilingual learners refers to students who are language learners who regularly come into contact with or interact in languages in addition to English. Multilingual learners include students who are dual language learners, newcomers, students with limited or interrupted formal schooling, multilingual learners with disabilities, gifted and talented multilingual learners, heritage language learners, students with English as an additional language, and students who speak varieties of English or indigenous languages. Multilingual newcomers. The term newcomers refers to any students and their families who have recently arrived in the United States. The length of time a student is considered a newcomer varies depending on location and setting, but often students are classified as newcomers from 6 months to 2 years from the time of their arrival in the United States. Newcomer students speak a variety of languages and have different levels of literacy skills and educational backgrounds. They may have specific needs based on their personal histories and family circumstances, but they generally share various academic and language needs when arriving in the United States. When newcomer students and their families enter the United States, they become familiar with their new country's culture and customs, as well as a new school system and its myriad structures, expectations, and legal requirements. Children who are international adoptees or unaccompanied youth may also be adjusting to life in a new family or home environment. On top of these challenges, many newcomers may have had journeys here that involve hardship and trauma. For all newcomers, being welcomed by school representatives who are culturally responsive and communicate in a language that the students and parents or guardians understand is essential. Many newcomers arrive in the US with strong literacy and academic backgrounds in their primary or home languages. Other newcomers may be students with limited or interrupted formal education. SLIFE is the acronym used when referring to students who have been identified as those with limited or interrupted formal education. Certain states and districts have their own unique definition of SLIFE, but generally, students who have been identified as SLIFE come from a home in which a language other than English is spoken. They have gaps in their education from their home country and are below grade level in reading and mathematics. They may have attended school in the US, but can have gaps in language and literacy due to ineffective instruction. Students who have been identified as SLIFE may have little or no primary language literacy. They are at risk for dropping out of school, and they need support beyond traditional ESOL programs. In addition to academic needs, students who have been identified as SLIFE often present with socio-emotional challenges, making culturally responsive educational environments essential. Asset-based approach. When planning instruction for students with limited or interrupted formal education, it is essential that educators use an asset-based approach. Some strengths that students who have been identified as SLIFE tend to bring to their education include resiliency, problem solving, cultural pride, strong family ties, motivation, and a sense of community. In addition, students who have been identified as SLIFE possess funds of knowledge, or the skills and knowledge that have been historically and culturally developed to enable an individual or household to function within a given culture, and can be a helpful place to begin once the teacher identifies them. Here are 3 links to resources to support your understanding and preparation for working with students who have been identified as SLIFE in your educational setting. These same links, along with additional links, are available on the main DOE Multilingual Office Resource Padlet. And that link is provided at the bottom of this site. Excuse me, this slide. Now we'll move on to discussing the language use survey. Schools are required under federal civil rights laws to identify all students who have a primary or home language other than English and who are not yet proficient in English. All students in Maine schools undergo the same process for determining multilingual learner status. The first step of that process is administration of the language use survey. The language use survey is a form which is included in the registration packet for all enrolling students. It must be administered to every newly enrolled student pre-K through grade 12. If a student's language use survey reflects a primary or home language other than English, an English language proficiency screener must be administered. Completed language use surveys are then placed in the student's cumulative folder. On the main DOE website, you will find that the language use survey is available in 26 languages in addition to English. I have provided a link here, embedded within the title of this slide, so that you can explore that resource. The English Language Proficiency Screener, or ELP screener, is the second step in identifying multilingual learners. The tools we use are the WIDA online ELP screener for grades 1 through 12. The WIDA kindergarten screener, which is a paper-based assessment. And pre-K students may be screened using an assessment chosen by the district. The ELP screener must be completed within 30 days of enrollment. For grades 1 through 12, an overall score of 4.5 or higher on a scale of 1 through 6 indicates proficiency in English. A score lower than 4.5 indicates that the student should be identified as a multilingual learner. Once a student has been identified as a multilingual learner, a language acquisition committee meeting is held. The purpose of a language acquisition committee, or LAC, is to examine the student's educational and social and emotional background information, consider the student's English language proficiency scores, and create a plan for serving and engaging the student through both the ESOL program, the general education classroom, and any other school-based or community services the student may benefit from. It is important that parents and guardians are active and valued participants in the LAC meeting. Providing interpreting and translating services is a key factor in welcoming parents and guardians as full members of the team. Parents and guardians' engagement and trust is essential in fully engaging multilingual learner students in the school community. Each district decides who the members of the LAC will be and how often the LAC will meet. The LAC should meet at least once yearly. If you are invited to attend a language acquisition committee meeting, it is helpful to bring current summative and formative assessment information about the student's social and emotional learning, as well as a description of growth and areas of need. During the LAC meeting, an ILAP, or Individual Language Acquisition Plan, is created. So what is an ILAP? An Individual Language Acquisition Plan, or ILAP, provides information on the formal learning and support plan for the multilingual learner, and it is created by the Language Acquisition Committee. The ILAP has several components. It details English language proficiency goals, describes instructional supports and tools for engagement, considers social and emotional needs, and it monitors and reports summative and formative assessments. Teacher feedback, parent insights and concerns, and ELP score details are also recorded within the ILAP. The completed ILAP is placed in the student's cumulative folder and shared with the student's educational team. I have embedded a link to an example ILAP format available from the main DOE at the top of this screen. Once a student is identified as a multilingual learner, they will participate annually in the Access for ELS or the Alternate Access ELP assessment. The Access for ELS is a state and federally required assessment administered to all Maine multilingual learners each year during the designated testing window. It provides information about students' ELP in the domains of listening, speaking, reading and writing within social and academic language tasks. At the bottom of this slide, you see a link to a sample score report to give you an idea of what information is available through the Access results. Let's move on to specific teacher actions that support instruction for multilingual learners and multilingual newcomers that can be used in the general education classroom. It will be essential to gather information to learn about your students' assets so that your instruction will draw on strengths and prior experiences. Talk with your school's ESOL educator. They may have a wealth of information gathered already. Use games and activities, drawings, or other expressions which provide opportunities for students to share. It is important that teachers support the acculturation process through culturally responsive practices with an understanding of the acculturation stages. Our time today doesn't allow for an in-depth discussion of these important ideas. However, if you wish to explore these ideas further, I have included links for more information about each of these practices here. Further teacher actions include establish ongoing trust-based communication with parents or guardians. Leverage or actively use primary language for engagement in classroom activities. Again, we don't have time to go into these subjects at length, but I have embedded links here for you that support a deeper understanding of these concepts. Providing learning opportunities that are aligned with language proficiency goals outlined in the ILAP is a key component of planning instruction for multilingual learners. Including content and language objectives in instructional planning is a great way to approach combining content and language in your general education classroom. The article that I have linked here provides detailed guidance about creating language objectives. Finally, in the teacher actions section of this presentation, I have listed 3 specific strategies that work very well for multilingual learners in the classroom. Talk moves, sentence frames, and opportunities for frequent structured conversations like turn and talk are excellent places to start. And I have provided links here to give you more information about each of those strategies. Now let's look at the WIDA English Language Development Standards Framework. The WIDA ELD Standards Framework provides a foundation for curriculum, instruction, and assessment for multilingual learners in kindergarten through grade 12. The ELD Standards Framework is centered on equity and fosters the assets, contributions, and potential of multilingual learners. The WIDA ELD Standards Framework is anchored by 4 big ideas, which are interwoven throughout. They are equity of opportunity and access, integration of content and language, collaboration among stakeholders, and functional approach to language development. The framework consists of 4 components, ranging from broad to narrow in scope. The broadest is the WIDA ELD standard statements. Then key language uses, language expectations, and finally, proficiency level descriptors. The WIDA ELD Standards Framework is a complex and expansive document which can contribute a great deal to educators' confidence and success in planning and supporting instruction for multilingual learners. For further learning about the WIDA ELD standards, I highly recommend enrolling in the WIDA e-learning course entitled The WIDA ELD Standards Framework, a Collaborative Approach. I have supplied a link here to the WIDA e-learning menu. If you do not yet have an account to log in to WIDA's secure portal, you may do so by contacting WIDA Client Services Center, and the phone number and email address are listed here at the bottom of this slide for you. In addition to the WIDA e-learning opportunity, April Perkins, Maine DOE ESOL and Bilingual Program Specialist, will be offering a professional learning community series about the WIDA ELD standards. The link to register for this PLC is listed here for you. Next, let's talk further about communication with families. Effective communication should be ongoing, mutual, and built on trust and respect. Sustainable system for families and educators to reach out and respond to each other is essential. Communication should be focused on student learning and achievement. Consistent two-way communication takes time and effort. For oral communication, engage a language interpreter, and for written or text communication, engage a translator to ensure that families have full access to communication. Home visits and community visits are essential in building trust and respect. Getting to know families and their communities helps educators recognize and respect the many ways that families support learning. One key element to prioritize in communication with families is to share routines for school success. This gives families and students the knowledge of how your educational setting works and how they can be best prepared. For example, explain how snack and lunch times work. Explain how the bus system works. Share what materials, clothing, and gear students will need to bring from home, as well as what the school provides free of cost. Remember that the educational system the family is familiar with may be significantly different from your school. At the bottom of this slide, I have included a link to tips for working effectively through an interpreter in school. And if you're new to working with interpreters, I would highly recommend checking out that information on the DOE website. We're going to return to using an asset-based approach. I previously mentioned the importance of an asset-based approach for students with limited or interrupted formal education. We're going to return to that concept now, as it is an important practice for all multilingual learners. Student portraits help to uncover and describe student assets. The purpose of creating a student portrait is to inform instruction, to engage newcomers in learning. Once a portrait is created, you can refer to it frequently when planning instruction. When creating a portrait, engage in activities such as icebreakers and conversations with your student to learn about the assets they bring. Primary and home languages, past experiences, passions and skills, challenges, and cultural knowledge are key elements to include in your student portrait. Your school's ESOL teacher may have already created a portrait for your student, or they may have gathered much of the information needed to create a portrait. And collaboration around creating a portrait with colleagues is one great way to build a community of support. At the bottom of this page, I have included 2 links, which gives further details and examples of what a student portrait can entail and might look like. Promoting multilingualism. Students' primary or home language is one of their greatest assets in the classroom, and it is an integral part of the student's identity. Leveraging primary or home languages in the classroom is an essential practice for engaging multilingual learners. When primary languages are reflected in the school community, students are empowered as contributing members. Recognizing and drawing on the wealth of knowledge and experiences multilingual learners bring to the classroom is essential, and their home or primary language is one of their greatest assets. Ask your school's ESOL teacher about the student's primary language or languages proficiency levels in all language domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Other ways to incorporate primary language in the classroom include build primary language into the morning chants or routines. Ask students to read and write in their primary language first, then in English. Ask students to use their primary language in groups or pair activities with same language peers. These are just a few ideas to get you started in your journey with leveraging primary language skills in your classroom. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope that this presentation has been helpful as you prepare to welcome multilingual learners into your educational setting. Again, my name is Rebecca Carey. I'm an ESOL consultant with the Maine Department of Education. Please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is listed here if you have any questions or would like to follow up about this presentation. Thank you.